Awaken one. Here we have the Holy Bible. And yes, it has plenty of holes in its narrative. For example, out of 12 disciples of this teacher, Yeshua, Jesus, there was only 4 books claiming to be written by his disciples. You got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now the first one, the oldest one we have by our dating, which, suspiciously enough, we cannot pinpoint to an accurate date. So there's a speculation. Mark was written sometime between 66 and 70 CE, or as Christians and Catholics like to call AD, after Jesus died. So Mark wrote this book 66 years, 2 possibly 70 years after Jesus died. How old was Mark? Think about it. Let's pretend he was 20, which I don't think he was. If he was 20, 66 years later, he would have been 80-something. Now, is it common without a medical industry, without hospitals, without refrigerators and cold water and proper nutrition, for someone to live that long at that time? Do y'all know when he was crucified? Then we got Matthew. Matthew, they don't know when it was written. Somewhere between 70 to 80 CE. Now, how old was Matthew? Did he live to be 90 years old if he was 20 at the time he was walking around with Jesus? Was this dude 90 years old when he got crucified? Look it up. John, the only one who, according to their own narratives, was actually present at the crucifixion itself. John was written somewhere between 90 and 110 CE, or AD. So if John was 20, he would have been 110 or possibly 120 when he supposedly wrote the book of John. Without a medical industry, without hospitals, without refrigerators or cold water. You actually believe that John was 110 or 120 when he wrote that book? And yet the book of Revelations, which is so popular amongst the extremists, when you actually drank the Kool-Aid and believe that the Prince of Peace is coming back to start a physical war of Armageddon. Really? Is that what he told you? That he was to live by the sword? Huh. Revelation was written, they don't know. Sometime between 100 CE or AD, 100 or later, as in 100 years after Jesus died. So if John was 20, and he wrote the Gospel of John when he was 110 or 120, he wrote Revelations sometime when he was 120 or any time after? In 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea got together after Constantine decided, when he had a vision during one of his last battles of the cross, and he promised if he could win this battle which he was losing, that he would conform the entire empire from paganism to Catholicism, and he would make Christianity into his version of Catholicism, which would spread across the empire. So what did he do? He chose people to fulfill his agenda. He chose which books went in and which books went out. All the Gnostic books and the what they deemed heretical, which didn't go with their agenda, were destroyed. The Gnostics were hunted and killed. The Knights Templar were hunted and killed on Friday the 13th. Tortured by good old Catholic boys. Peter was to be made the first pope, regardless of what Yeshua wanted and who he wanted in Mary Magdalene to lead the movement. The most enlightened being, disciple, walking this earth, whom those sexist, racist, patriarchal chauvinists were jealous of. But yet in your own narratives, in your own books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Jesus himself often expressed frustration with Peter and how he had been walking and talking and learning with him for 3 years, and Peter still just didn't get it. In fact, when Jesus was arrested, Peter was the only one and the first one to pull out a weapon and slash the ear of that guard to save Jesus, right, in their story? And what did he say? He said, no, we don't do that here. Wakanda forever. But yet you think that Peter, yeah, he's dumb as a rock, but he is not the rock of the church. Mary Magdalene was. She was the Holy Grail. And she went off to France. But the vicar of Christ, Peter, conspired with Paul, your new idol. Ooh, a man who was hunting and killing Christians. You actually believed the lie that Jesus came to him and blinded him, essentially blackmailed him to spread Catholicism. Is that what Jesus did? Huh? In your own stories? Was he known to blackmail people and blind them? How about this for your Holy Bible, written by Romans who were murderers and thieves, rapists, and took slaves? How did the Roman Empire expand? They killed their neighbors. They stole their shit, raped their women, and took slaves of the people who weren't going to fight back, to work for them, to make more money. These are the people that wrote the Holy Book, the Holy Shit Bible, and you actually believe when your preacher tells you it was divinely inspired? It was inspired, all right, by Romans. So think again next time you think Yeshua said to turn the other cheek to tyrants. Maybe he did say it. Or maybe he didn't. Because in 1942, although the Romans tried to burn every copy of the Gnostic text, because, you know, if something's a lie, you should destroy it. Wait, doesn't the truth speak for itself? If something's a lie, can't we hold it and be like, look, do you see this lie? Here's the truth. Do you see it's a lie? No. Instead, they wanted to destroy it because it wasn't a lie. This is a lie. Just the fact that you, in the Old Testament, have a jealous and vengeful God who commits genocide with the flood and kills babies in Egypt. Who does that sound like? Satan? And then in the New Testament, you have this unconditionally loving God who is all merciful. Except he requires a torture and blood sacrifice of his only Son to forgive the sins of the world, even for things they didn't even do. Blood sacrifice. That's the holy in the Bible. Sounds like Satan again. So, who wrote the Bible? Romans? If the Gnostic books are blasphemy and lies, why don't you prove it? Why did you try to erase it? Oh, but guess what? God allowed one copy to survive. In the same year we discovered the nuclear bomb, we rediscovered the Gnostic texts and how suspect the holy shit Bible is and always was.